It's time now for perspective. On Friday morning, the UK woke up to a new year and a new relationship with the European Union. 4.5 years after the UK voted to leave the bloc, both sides have now stepped out into unchartered post-divorce territory. But an 11th hour post-Brexit trade deal means the divorce wasn't perhaps as messy as it might have been. My guest today is Andrew Blick, Senior Lecturer in Politics and Contemporary History in the Department of Political Economy at King's College London. Thank you very much for speaking to us today on France 24. Now, today is the beginning of the first full week of Brexit. Before 11 p.m. on Thursday, many were predicting chaos of all sorts. Is that what we've seen in recent days?
We haven't yet seen chaos. I think one of the reasons we've not seen it is that a deal was reached. Had there been no deal, I think there would have been greater problems. Also, if specifically the chaos we're talking about is chaos at Dover or chaos at Calais, trying to get in and out of the main port of entry into the UK, some of the hauliers, I understand, have decided just not to operate for the time being to see how things work out. So certainly the kind of chaos that we did see earlier that same week for a different reason, your earlier item, because for temporarily the French stopped exit from the UK at that port. We haven't seen those kind of queues and chaos. So that particular issue hasn't arisen yet.
And do you think then that we might see more chaos in the days and weeks to come as we come out of the New Year's celebrations, as COVID starts to settle, hopefully?
It is possible that there will be delays that are greater than we're used to at that port. I think in many ways that's not the most important issue at stake. I think the real issue that we're going to need to think about here in the UK and to an extent in the EU is how this trade works out more generally in practice, what it actually means, what this supposed freedom to diverge from EU regulations will actually mean in practice, what will be the repercussions of choosing to diverge if we do so, and how the politics of that will play out. Those are the things we really need to be watching.
Now, the Brexit deal, of course, was agreed on Christmas Eve. We only learned it got royal assent on Thursday morning. A lot of MPs were extremely frustrated that they didn't have time to scrutinise this legislation properly. Do MPs, in your opinion, know exactly what it is they voted for?
I'd be very surprised if they do. I wouldn't claim to know every aspect of the deal intimately. I wouldn't want to be overly conspiratorial about this, but I would say it suited the interests of all parties, particularly the UK, to unveil this deal at the last minute as they did, to present people really with a stark choice between taking the deal, whatever it was, and no deals, which was, in the end, always likely to lead to Parliament taking a deal.
Now, of course, it's a linked point. The deal was supported by an overwhelming majority of MPs, but of course, it wasn't a deal that everyone was happy with. Just how divisive do you think the issue of Brexit is going to continue to be in the months and years to come?
That's a good question. I think some on both sides are hoping that the division will lessen. Certainly on the Remain side, there were some people who were quite pro-Remain even after the referendum, or certainly wanted to soften Brexit, bounce of a second referendum. Some of them are now saying, let's try and put this behind us. On the Leave side, they're also saying, let's try and put this behind us, although you could argue that the people who are in power in the UK at the moment are in power precisely because they maximise divisions around this issue. That's how they got control of the Conservative Party. That's how they got control of the country. So how far they really want that division, which is arguably the source of their power, to go away is another question. But however much some people may want or say they want this division to go away, actually the trade deal that we've got hasn't fully resolved all the issues. We still don't have trade in services dealt with, which is going to be an issue which is going to be need to address quite shortly. We still don't have the reviews that go on, the ongoing negotiations that will need to go on around the operation of the deal and how happy we are on both sides with it. And we still don't have those political decisions taken, which the UK is going to need to take about how far it actually does want to diverge. And if it does, what is the response that from the EU going to be? And the EU is allowed to respond by taking retaliatory measures if they don't like some of the things we're doing.
And just how likely do you think it is that we'll see those sorts of retaliatory measures from the EU?
I think that certainly the possibility of them is going to become an important factor, even if they don't happen, or even if they're not enormous in their impact. I think there's certainly going to be a factor in discussions. Just the fact that they exist, the fact that they're allowed for in the agreement, is going to be a consideration for the UK. Some in the UK will say, well, let's not just diverge for the sake of diverging if it's going to lead to retaliatory measures. Others will say, who cares about the retaliatory measures? Let's just go forth and do our own thing, which is what I'm talking about, really. It's a continuation of the Leave Remain argument by another means. So I think I wouldn't like to make an exact prediction about whether they're going to be used, but I certainly wouldn't rule out they're being used at some point. But the threat of their being used is always going to be there.
I'd like to end by asking you a question about Scotland. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has asked the EU to leave a light on for Scotland. Just how dangerous do you think Brexit will prove to be for UK unity?
Brexit has already proved very divisive politically, but also territorially in the UK. No question about that. It certainly revived the Scottish independence movement, and it's not guaranteed that it's going to be successful. How it gets there isn't clear, but certainly Scottish independence looks more plausible now, I think, than at any point it has since 1707. So there's no question it's revived that. And let's also not forget about Northern Ireland, which under an international agreement the UK is committed to allowing to leave if it votes to do so in a referendum and rejoin with the Republic of Ireland. Now, the terms of the Brexit agreement we have there make very clearly include Northern Ireland within the EU for some purposes, in effect, not formally. And there certainly means that there's regulatory alignment between Northern Ireland and the EU, which there isn't for Great Britain, for the rest of the UK. And that then comes back to this issue of how far do we choose to diverge? How far do we use this power to diverge? What will be the consequences for opinion in Scotland if we do that? And also, will it mean that, in effect, the rest of the UK becomes more and more distant from Northern Ireland, and it de facto becomes more and more part of the island of Ireland, of the Republic and of the EU?
Andrew Blick, I'm so sorry, we're going to have to leave it there. Andrew Blick, Senior Lecturer in Politics and Contemporary History in the Department of Political Economy at King's College London. Thank you.